Warm greetings from the southern Drakensberg. Well, that's a lie. They're not warm. The water is freezing cold here. In the middle of February, when the weather is normally stinking hot, the weather is closed in for a very important canoeing race. It's doubling as the KwaZulu-Natal K2 champs, but it's now the Rocky Drakensberg Challenge, the third running of this event. And as you can see, the water not terribly deep in the upper reaches of the river, and that's causing a lot of consternation with the paddlers. And they've got good reason to worry about the water level, because this race has a history. Last year, the water was running about 1 foot to 1.5 feet lower than this, and in the bridge behind me, you'll see the concrete balustrades, the concrete foundations of the pillars are the cut-off mark. If the river is running there or thereabouts, that's the minimum paddleable level. And the organizers have worked out that's exactly where we're at today. The year before that, in 1994, the river was an absolute spate. In fact, there was about 1.5 foot clearance between the pillars and the bridge itself. That year, all hell broke loose on the river. 25% of the paddlers made it through to the finish. But for the moment, it's a low Drakensberg challenge. Rocky's coming to the party. Let's see if the paddlers can enjoy the conditions. First down to the river on race day are the sweeps in their plastics. Their job to see every single boat through the many dangerous obstacles on the river over the 2 days. One of the crews that's sure to have enough experience, and miles behind them is this one down here, but it's also a tried and, well, untested crew. Tim Cornish, a former doozy winner, having a look at the river. What are you expecting from day one?
Hi, Dave. It's looking very low. The first part's going to be very low. But Steve here, he lives right here, so you know, he knows the way. Hopefully won't have any mishaps.
All right, confess to camera, have you ever paddled together?
No, we haven't even been in a boat together yet. We were planning to do it this morning, but we've been too busy so far.
Steve, you do. You live just over the hill. You're also the man responsible for putting the marks on the bridge. This is just about as low as we can race it.
Yeah, I reckon we've got another inch down or 2 inches down, and we'd have to start lower down on the river today. But the doubles are going to battle through the low water, especially for, I'd say, about the first 40 minutes. And then once we've passed Black Murray, things should sort of open up a bit.
Find some word to describe this river. It's very fickle. You know, its character can change in a couple of hours overnight.
Oh yeah, I've actually been here before when it's been this low. We've had a storm up in the mountains. We've sort of waited half an hour, waited for the water, jumped in, and off we go in a big river. So from low to big. It's not going to happen today.
One of the standout performances of this year's doozy was the incredible winning time by the ladies' doubles that came through to take the honours. Debbie Whitten was right there, going for the KwaZulu-Natal K2 title. Tell us a little bit about your crew and your preparations.
Well, since doozy, we kind of tapped off a bit. Wendy's been focusing on her running, and we're hoping to pull out the Natal Championships today, so it'll be a good race.
Tough conditions. I guess being a light crew and being a good driver is going to make a big difference today.
Yes, it is. It will be to our advantage, and I did paddle down the section last week. It's going to be a lovely race.
Who do we look for as contenders to win this race and, of course, the Natal K2 title? Fair enough to say, double doozy winner makes you a fair contender. Mark Perro, you're a happy man in big water. Is that why the face is a bit long this morning?
Yeah, we've brought our big volume boat, and we were expecting a raging torrent with all the rain. We drove through the rain. Ladysmith is underwater, 8 meters underwater, and we were expecting a little bit more than this. But we'll make the best of it. And I think it'll just be very low for the first 45 minutes. And then the river should widen out and should pick up some water so we can get down and do some paddling again.
You guys think you're going to handle through the low water? Because this is going to be quite important to who eventually wins the day and then the race.
Yeah, I've never seen this river this low, this top stretch. I only did it 2 years ago when it was in full flood. And I think we've got the wrong boat. We were expecting big water. So we'll have to play it by ear and see what happens.
Your race tactics? Sometimes brave, sometimes foolhardy. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'd like to get to the front quite early on and get to the front, stay in contention, and then open up towards the second half of the race.
You managed to win doozy despite driving into a rock on the third day. Have you sharpened up the driving since then?
Well, I've changed the driver. This year I've got Robbie in front and I'll just sit in the back and take it easy.
Who do you see as the big contenders? I mean, who are the threats? Who are the guys you're going to be racing?
I think Neil Evans, my doozy partner, and Alan van Coller will be very difficult to beat.
When people are ducking and diving around rocks as opposed to racing, how did the race tactics change?
It certainly works your patience in terms of where you're lying. You're probably going to have to sort of relax in a queue, certainly in the first 45 minutes when it's going to be really tight, because by the looks of things, we're only going to get 1 or 2 boats down at a time. So there's going to be a mad flurry at the beginning to get a good position, and then from then onwards, I think the guys are just going to stay in contention with each other until the river widens out. once it's widened out, the real race will start probably literally an hour into the race. So everybody's just going to hope to stay in contention with their boat in one piece for the first 45 minutes.
Small guys are going to have a good time in the low river conditions. Small guys, well, that's not the way we can describe you, Dion. It's going to be a hell of a day for a big, strong, strapping rugby player like yourself.
Dave, yeah. I'm a bit disappointed. I thought it'd be a bit more water. I did the one 2 years ago in flood, and after all the rains, I was expecting the same kind of water. But, well, they say it gets better down the river, a couple of k's down the river. So I'm looking forward to the more water.
Why do this race? What do you remember about that 1994 race?
I don't remember much. I just remember swallowing water. I just remember huge waves. I really enjoyed it, adrenaline, and I was hoping for the same thing.
At the start, the paddlers were greeted with cool, overcast skies. This is time for the canoeists to finish their final preparations. It's here that the help of the seconds is crucial. They ferry equipment and spares up and down the valley and often remember basics like sun cream.
Ready, go!
Each of the batches was started Le Mans style, a havoc-laden format which is worsened by the low river. This bumping and scraping gave the paddlers a taste of what lay in wait over the first 15 kilometers of this tough and demanding course. Well, the starter's gun is gone an hour later than usual, an hour during which time the weather has moved in, and here come the leaders under the first obstacle, 500 meters into the race. It's the Edmund brothers, John and Andrew, who have opened out an impressive lead right at the start of this race, with the rest of the field jockeying for position behind them. And this is crucial because the rapids are so shallow that a lot of the guys are going to have to queue. You can already see the congestion under the bridge as some of the crews from upcountry are clashing with the crews. There goes Bruce Wenker and his partner through the rest of the field. Colin Simpkins from the Transvaal coming under the bridge, and the rest of the contenders, you'll see a lot of them are wearing Hallie Hansons, which are special jackets to try and keep them warm in these conditions. There's Herman Chalupsky, one of the hot lifesavers and paddlers coming through the bridge at the moment. Immediately behind him, Kevin White and his partner. Kevin, one of the contenders in this year's Doozy Marathon and one of the paddlers who tried to break the Doozy record in a day during the floods. As the rest of the batches started on the low river, they showed markedly less enthusiasm than the A batch. Most had entered the K2 or doubles race and started well aware of the need to be cautious and to preserve their equipment through the pounding that lay in wait during the first 15 kilometers, now known as the notorious Valley of 1,000 Rapids. At Rickety Bridge, some 6 kilometers into the race, the field has thinned out significantly in the shallow river. The K1s or singles, as well as a few white water boats, appear far more comfortable in the low river conditions, before the tributaries offer any more water to boost the level of the river. For the doubles, hardly a rapid or a drop went by without a rock jarring the fragile fiberglass hulls of the canoes. My partner here is too easily distracted by women on the bank. 10 kilometers into the race lies the notorious rapid Black Murray. First through are the crew of Mark Pero and Robbie Herefeld, making it look easy through the tight chute between the rocks. 2 minutes behind them, Neil Evans and Alan van Coller, making a mistake in the approaches that cost them valuable time in a boat that was already showing ominous signs of wear and tear. In third place, Les Kay and Gary Wade, a combination of two seasoned KwaZulu-Natal paddlers, just holding off a challenge from Bruce Wenker and Kenny Reynolds. Steve Black and Tim Cornish fared well in the rocky upper reaches of the river and were comfortably leading the vets race. For some, however, the trauma and the frustration of swimming through Black Murray was easily disguised the moment the TV crew was spotted at the bottom of the rapid. Debbie Witten and Wendy White were also casualties at Black Murray, here getting a very helping hand from one of the sweeps. They were later locked in a ding-dong battle with Lynette Rennie and Lorna Oliver for the ladies' title. Black Murray is dangerous at any level. Many paddlers opt for the portage along the right-hand bank. Many of them also break up. One of the unexpected victims was the very experienced whitewater paddler, Alec Rennie.
Yeah, they do hold it. You look here. That's what happens on a low river.
That's a big hole, Alec.
It's in a big hole, Sean. It's a canyon.
Some paddlers make it all the way through the treacherous stretches of Black Murray, only to be unceremoniously dumped by the final small drop. Others, however, make Black Murray look like a piece of cake. Impressive. For those that shoot Black Murray successfully is the exhilaration and the knowledge that the notorious Valley of 1,000 Rapids is now behind them. Others, especially those nursing broken canoes, enjoy the same feeling walking down the banks. They will no doubt tell you that they were deliberately including a hike during their visit to the berg. For some, the race is over, and with it, a long walk out of the valley. Amongst those victims was our rugby player friend turned paddler, Dion Lotte. By 18 kilometers, Robbie Herefeld and Mark Perro had ripped out a massive 6-minute lead. Behind them, the picture was less pretty at Black Murray Rapid. Kilometers from the end of the first leg, at the end of the Valley of 1,000 Rapids, a welcome hotspot, free fiberglass and resin for the paddlers to mend their battered craft. For many, the proverbial hot mix was the only way that they stood any chance of making it to the
Where
finish.
did you pick up this damage on your boat?
The top section was pretty technical, and all the way down we were bumping the first 10 k's.
Was the river as rough as you thought it would be? Or?
We were hoping for more water, but it still was beautiful up there. Lovely river, but just very technical.
Oh, we're finished now, yeah. We were a submarine for quite a lot of the time. But we got a pump in the back and it sorted us out for a while.
But I moved up to the Cape and I've forgotten how to drive on the real rivers, you know.
Remember the gent we saw swimming at Black Murray?
Yeah, there's stuff all over the place, and we don't know the river at all, especially at this level. It's so funny. 2 years ago we did it at that float level, and it's the complete opposite now of what we've got here today. It's no fun at all.
So what are you waiting for at the moment?
I'm waiting for the resin to dry.
At the finish of day one, Herefeld and Perro clocked a time of 2 hours and 9 minutes, 20 minutes longer than they expected to complete the first leg in the low river conditions.
Yeah, we had a good race. Had some good lines, but very tricky at the top. If you make one mistake, you'll have to climb out of your boat.
Today we didn't take too many shortcuts. We could see them, but they were very marginal. Maybe you would have made up 1 or 2 boat links on each shortcut, but if you get one wrong, you lose 1 or 2 minutes. So tomorrow, hopefully, just good, clean, safe lines and follow the water.
Second to the overnight stop was the Cape crew of Daniel Conradi and Eugene van Westerhuizen, with the local crew of Glenn Hillier and Fred Dazel right on their tail. Gauteng paddlers filled many of the top 10 positions. Our untested combination of Steve Black and Tim Cornish were well clear in the vets race.
It was a little bit low at the beginning. With so many boats, everyone was getting stuck every so often and positions were changing a lot. But After about 5 Ks, the river gradually got more water and people got spread out. The race went nicely.
We had a bunch of guys behind us who we had to fight with the whole time. But it was good.
One of the impressive performances on the first leg were the leading juniors, Jason Callister and Ant Stott. However, the big surprise of day one was the demise of Neil Evans and Alan van Coller, way back in 18th place and more than 25 minutes off the pace. They were repairing boat damage well into the night, like many of the other competitors. Battered boats at dawn. Just a hint of the battered bodies that were sleeping in the tents at the overnight stop at the Underberg School. Seasoned marathon canoeists are versatile individuals, able to cope with floods and droughts, sometimes long walks out of remote valleys, and mothering invention to facilitate repairs in the wildest and most remote of locations. The start of day two, the early birds are checking in. Some are finishing repairs that never dried overnight, others preparing mentally for the 31 kilometers of low river ahead. Day two of the 1996 Rocky Drakensberg Challenge looks set to be a little warmer than the first day yesterday, but it's going to remain fairly overcast, providing pretty close to ideal weather paddling conditions. But as you can probably see in the background, the paddlers arriving at Scotson Bridge for the start of the second day are all doing one thing. They're looking down into the riverbeds, and there's been no significant change to the water level. River's running at about 1.5 feet, which for a doubles race is once again going to be dangerously low. Very hard on the equipment, as was the case yesterday. Of the 240-odd starters, 180 made it over the 35 kilometers of the first day. Most of the withdrawals were due to boat damage. It really was very cruel on the K2s in particular. The results, well, the Mark Perro combination, as predicted, was right at the top of the leaderboard, but in the top 6 boats, 3 boats from Gauteng and 1 from the Cape Peninsula, and then just 2 local boats in that top 6. There were also a number of surprises that turned up during the 35 kilometers of the first day. Neil, there were hopes of seeing you guys top 3 at the end of day one, certainly in with a shout for the overall race, but what happened to you yesterday?
Yeah, we started off well, but because the river was low, our boat, which is old and brittle, it just gave up. Going through the rapids, the boat kept on breaking, and as hard as we pumped, we just couldn't keep up. Eventually, through the one rapid, 2 long tears gave way, and there was like a 50 centimeter gash in the boat, and it was too much. We couldn't pump the water out, the boat went down. We had to pull over, stop and patch the boat on the side of the river. So having been competitive for the first hour and a quarter and only a minute behind Mark and Robbie, that was our race.
Start of the second day, there are a lot of very young, very fit mixed doubles combination, and yet Rick and Colleen Witten are leading the mixed doubles coming into the start of the second day. Rick, what went right yesterday?
Well, from the start we decided we were going to take it very slowly because we're very unfit, and we paddling along, we just made sure we were nice and clean through the rapids, and hell, it just played into our hands because everybody was just getting so stuck up. They were getting very uptight and were actually fighting with each other more than with the river. And we managed to pick our way through, and at one stage we were lying 10th, which we couldn't believe. And it managed to give us a big enough lead, or big enough cushion, to be able to hang on till the end.
In the field were a large number of juniors, as well as a number of over 60s ready to take on the challenge. Day 2 started on elapsed time for the leaders Mark Perro and Robbie Herefeld. A short paddle out of Underberg, they are met by a 10-foot weir and then into a testing 5-kilometer gorge, laced with technically demanding rapids, culminating in a new monster rapid at the Glen Haven Resort. Then the river widens and flattens, and the stamina and fitness come into play. 5 kilometers from the end of the second stage, a second gorge and Heaven and Hell rapid, and then 31 kilometers later, the finish. The chasing crew starting in elapsed time as well, Eugene van Westerhuizen and Daniel Conradi, with Hillier and Dazel right on their bow wave. Once the contenders had left in elapsed time, it was time for the batches. Batch starts on the water normally produce plenty of excitement because it takes just one canoe drifting offline to produce a logjam of cursing canoeists. The local paddlers are normally quick to identify the errant paddler as a Varley. Obstacle 1, just a kilometre down from the start, is a 10-foot weir that can be shot down the steps of a fish weir. For those not confident enough of locating the chute, the portage option down the left-hand bank seems a lot more attractive. In the queue for the early morning thrill is master paddler from Pietermaritzburg, Tom Pike. Behind him, making a welcome appearance in a canoe, Grant Wollaston and his partner. Just like the start of the doozy, the fish chute provides an excellent early morning adrenaline rush. At the end of the gorge lies a new rapid at the Glen Haven Resort. This monster was formed by rocks and rubble from the dam wall that was destroyed in the recent floods. It's a recommended portage, but many couldn't resist the temptation. Many paddlers opted for the safety first option of the portage. Many wished they had. Our old friend Tom Pike is back in the picture. He made a valiant attempt at shooting Glen Haven without his paddles, which he jammed between two rocks at the top of the rapid. But like a seasoned fisherman, there was always a story of what really happened.
I hit the rock at the top of the rapid here and spun around. Problem, I broadsided on and came down backwards. That's what the problem was, I broke the cable.
But you seem to have done many of these races before, so you know what to do.
Yeah, I know what to do, but I hit the wrong rocks there.
The second half of the final day is made up mostly of flat water. The last dangerous rapid at the end of the second gorge is called Heaven and Hell. The Cape crew of Daniel Conradi and Eugene van der Westerhuizen approach Heaven and Hell and size up the options. They've already missed Heaven, which is a sneak down the left-hand side of the river. They then approach Hell. At this stage, they're in second place overall, stand no chance of catching Pero and Herefeld, but they don't want to risk any damage. So they forsake Hell and decide for the third option, a sneak between the two down the center, a sort of paddling purgatory. Close behind them in third, Hillier and Dazel have no problem locating the Heaven option. While storming through the top 10 contenders and looking for a top 10 finish after a bad first day, Alan van Coller and Neil Evans can't resist the attraction of the white water of Hell. For the bulk of the field behind them, the lure of the rough but safe water is too great, and the thrill of mastering the waves, fueling the sport and providing the spectators with plenty of action. The Edmund brothers, John and Andrew, having swapped seats after the first day, show how it's done. Doozies and Doozy paddlers Kevin Cordner and Alec Gilbert get it all wrong. From heaven and hell, it's a pleasant 5-kilometre paddle until the sight of the seconds cars on the Berg Hills heralds the finish. But heaven and hell still has some unfinished business. Herefeld and Pero crossed the finish line on day 2 in 1 hour 45, wrapping up a massive 12-minute win over the Cape crew of Eugene van der Westerhuizen and Daniel Conradi, with Glenn Hillier and Fred Dazel another 3 minutes adrift. For the Gauteng crew, Pero and Herefeld were gratifyingly consistent over a tough race.
Robbie took good lines again, and we had a great race. And we managed to open the gap up substantially again today, so it was good training, and hopefully the training today will pay off in the Umzimkulu in 2 weeks' time.
Robbie, what is it like to be out in front? Is it difficult to pace yourself?
It is quite difficult. You don't know how far the guys are behind you. I know it was Ellen and Neil were having a hard day today. I think they were trying and have the quickest day, because they had quite a bad day yesterday, so they went hard today and tried to make up quite a few places, which I think they did. They had a stormer of a day. They were only 30 seconds behind us at the end of the day, which is an excellent paddle for them.
There was one huge rapid halfway down on the second day. I think it's a bit of a risk shooting it. Luckily we managed to get down there in one piece. I think most of the other front guys did as well, but I think there's going to be a lot of raps there today.
I think the rapid at Glenhaven Guest Farm sorted a lot of guys out, almost ourselves as well. I think Tim nearly joined me in the front deck when we hit the rock at the bottom.
For the rest of the field, the so-called fish and chips, there were smiles aplenty at the finish as the medals were handed out by, who knows, the paddling stars of the next generation.
We actually got stuck halfway down and got quite a fright. Thought that was the end of the race.
How do you enjoy the race overall?
Very good. Well organised. We came through well with the nice water today.
At the prize giving, the laurels were heaped on the winners, but as usual, it also afforded an opportunity for the rest of the paddlers to exchange their war stories. And so the curtain comes down on the 1996 Rocky Drakensberg Challenge, and it turned out to be an exhilarating and very demanding championship event. Victory going overall to the Gauteng crew in a very impressive showing in difficult conditions for K2s, the Cape crew coming in second, and the KwaZulu-Natal K2 title going to the third boat home, Glenn Hillier and Fred Dazel, the first local crew across the line. All in all, a very exciting event, and the second day in particular rounding off an enjoyable event for all the paddlers in the Berg. I can vouch for that firsthand, having worked hard to get the medal. This event is growing rapidly in popularity, and the paddlers are the big winners here because the sponsors, Rocky, have just announced that they're into this event long term. They're so thrilled with the spirit engendered by the paddlers and this very, very unique event that they are here to stay. This is also one of the quickest growing races in the country, along with the Fish River Marathon. Who knows, in maybe a year's time it could even be bigger than the Doozy. Already the paddlers are going home ready to say to their friends, have you done the challenge?